tonight. A Regina senior is left homeless after being evicted from her cockroach-infested government housing unit. Also, a political firestorm around carbon tax. The leader of the Conservative Party is now calling for an exemption on all home heating until the next federal election.
In His Majesty's name, I assent to this bill.
Plus, poppy bans are now illegal in Saskatchewan. The government passes its bill to protect workers who want to wear a poppy on the job.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, November 1st, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. A Regina senior says she is homeless after being evicted from a government housing unit infested with cockroaches. 71-year-old Evelyn Harper was invited to the legislature by the opposition. Harper says she was evicted from Cedarwood Manor on 3 days' notice. Harper has rheumatoid arthritis and needs assistance from family members to get into bed each night. She was evicted because she's unable to live independently and she's unable to prepare her rental unit for cockroach extermination. Cockroaches were hanging off her ceiling. The opposition says the Regina Housing Authority was following its rules, but should have helped Harper find a new place. She's been living in a motel since Friday.
Not knowing what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go has been very scary. I wouldn't wish this on anybody, you know, to be homeless and to be kicked out of your place where you live, because it's been the scariest thing of my life.
We'll give her the supports she needs, whether it's within Social Services Ministry, whether it's in the Housing Corporation, or if it's other areas that we can assist and make sure she is taken care of in any way we can.
Mikowski says the government will look for an affordable place that Harper can move into permanently. She says she doesn't want to move back to her unit at Cedarwood Manor that wasn't wheelchair accessible. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is refusing to change his government's carbon tax plan despite mounting criticism. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has blasted the plan, for which calls a tax moratorium on home heating oil. He's calling for an exemption on all home heating until the next federal election. Marina von Stackelberg has more on the political stakes of this heated debate.
Rallying his caucus in Ottawa, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says it's fundamentally unfair. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is only exempting some Canadians from the carbon tax.
He divides by race, sexuality, vaccine status, and now region.
The temporary 3-year break applies to those who heat with oil. That fuel is used in only 3% of homes, found mostly in Atlantic Canada.
A divide and conquer strategy being condemned even by some New Democrats. The NDP in Saskatchewan and Alberta have come out against the two classes of citizenship that Justin Trudeau has imposed.
The opposition NDP in those two provincial legislatures support motions to demand all heating be exempt. Saskatchewan has threatened to stop collecting the carbon tax altogether and is preparing for possible legal action by the federal government.
I guess if it comes to that point where somebody's going to carbon jail, it likely will be me.
In Ottawa, the Conservatives are calling on the federal NDP to support a motion they'll introduce to demand all home heating be exempt.
Will Jagmeet Singh stand with provincial NDPers? Will he stand with the voters who put their trust in his MPs in places like Timmins and other cold northern communities? Or will he once again sell out working class Canadians in order to suck up to Justin Trudeau? That will be his decision.
Yes or no, will you support the Conservative motion to call for an exemption for all home heating?
We're discussing the Conservative motion in our team. We're discussing that still.
We need a credible carbon pricing plan, and Mr. Trudeau's blown the credibility of his carbon plan by trying to defend his MPs in Atlantic Canada without a national plan.
So would you support Pierre Poilievre's motion?
We shall see.
Whether the NDP decide to support this Conservative motion on Monday has the potential to drive a wedge between the New Democrats and the Liberals. The NDP have been supporting this Liberal minority government on key votes as part of their confidence and supply agreement. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
An Estevan police officer is recovering in a Regina hospital tonight after an officer-involved shooting at the Estevan police station. That's one of 2 incidents that have drawn multiple police forces to the southern city. Estevan police were called to a stabbing around 7 a.m. Police say 1 person was arrested and there was no further risk to public safety at that location. But Saskatchewan RCMP are investigating how an Estevan officer was injured a couple hours later at the police station. Police say there was an altercation and both the officer and the suspect were seriously injured. The officer was airlifted to a hospital in Regina and is now in stable condition.
First and foremost, our hearts and prayers are with him, with his family, with his friends, and this is just a real stark reminder for all of us of what our first responders, what our enforcement officials do day in and day out to keep our community safe, and we're really praying for him today.
The Serious Incident Response Team was deployed to Estevan to investigate the officer-involved shooting. Weyburn Police are lending support with calls for service. Saskatchewan is making it easier for more international workers to stay in our province as permanent residents. Historically, it's focused only on highly trained and highly skilled laborers. But as Pratush Dayal reports, that's no longer the case.
Saskatchewan is expanding the existing work permit program stream.
The province is expanding the range of jobs for which international workers can seek permanent residency in Saskatchewan through the immigrant nominee program. It now includes an additional 279 jobs, including home childcare providers, meat cutters, truck drivers, and farm laborers.
These changes will increase the retention of intermediate and lower skilled workers and address labor market gaps Saskatchewan employers are currently facing.
Prior to the announcement, only workers in highly skilled occupations and designated trades were eligible under the stream. Jensen said the change will help Saskatchewan reach a population of 1.4 million people and create 100,000 new jobs by the end of this decade.
We know that immigration plays a vital role in our workforce, and we're constantly adapting to respond to our labor market needs.
Within the next 10 years, a large percentage of the construction labor force will be retiring. In order for communities and businesses to continue to grow, the support of immigration into Canada is fundamental for future development.
Since the start of the Russian invasion, nearly 5,500 Ukrainians have arrived in Saskatchewan, with more on the way.
What today's announcement does is provide more help to those who arrive to our province under the Canada-Ukraine authorization for emergency travel, to more easily make Saskatchewan their long-term home as Canadian permanent residents.
That's exactly what these Ukrainian newcomers want to.
Now I feel it's like my home. It's like my city in Ukraine.
Yes, we plan to stay and growing with this company and to work here. I think long time.
The women say moving to Saskatchewan was difficult and they're happy this change could allow them to stay. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
With more immigrant and refugee families arriving in Saskatchewan, there are more children entering our schools who need supports in the classroom, especially when language is a barrier. Regina Public School Division is trying to help, even as it struggles to keep up with demand. Jessie Anton reports.
You have roller skates. Do you like to do this?
Yes.
Yes,
But
okay.
I don't have now.
But you don't have them here.
Gurpreet Kaur's 2 oldest children are going through an assessment at Regina Public School's Newcomer Welcome Center. The family just arrived from India last month, so a teacher is testing their reading, writing, and math skills. Then she'll figure out what classroom supports the children need for English as an additional language, or EAL. And because the center works with the Open Doors Society, their mother gets help too.
Everything. They gave me the knowledge of everything, so I can do this.
So it not only helps the families, but it also helps the schools because we really try and answer as many questions as we can and give as much information before they go to the school so that when they get to the school, they already have all the information they need or as much as they can get.
Giselle Carlson is registering more newcomer students than ever before. Last school year, the center saw more than 1,600 students, and already this school year, they've registered more than half that number. She says they brought in extra EAL teachers from schools to avoid any backlogs in assessments.
Huge increases and not being able to increase the EAL support. So that falls on classroom teachers.
The teachers union says government data from 2021 shows there was just one EAL teacher for every 140 students who needed one.
It means fewer supports for classroom teachers supporting English as an additional language students, and less time for those students to get the supports that they need.
The Ministry of Education says it's still verifying enrollment numbers and pointed to the $40 million boost it gave school divisions last June, which it says is to support enrollment growth and the complexity of today's classrooms, which the core children will soon experience firsthand. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
It's now against the law to stop employees from wearing a poppy in most Saskatchewan workplaces.
Number 139, the Saskatchewan Remembrance Observance Act.
In His Majesty's name, I assent to this bill.
The government introduced the Remembrance Observance Act in the legislature today, and the bill quickly received unanimous support. The Lieutenant Governor was on hand to give royal assent. The legislation gives provincially regulated workers the right to wear a poppy recognized by the Royal Canadian Legion in the workplace from November 1st to 11th each year. The Labour Relations Minister says the law is necessary because of a handful of cases.
The one, that comes to mind was down in Estevan, and it was at a courthouse, and it was kind of judged that was not showing neutrality. Of course, the courts are neutral, of course, and the employee was asked to remove his poppy, and that's since changed within that courthouse. But there are other examples. There is a store down in the southeast that employee who has spoke to us a number of times that was asked to remove his poppy as well.
Federally regulated workers are not included in the legislation. Similar laws are in place in Ontario and Manitoba. After many delays, a much anticipated community market in Saskatoon is expected to open its doors in the new year. The Gather Local Market will be at River Landing. It will include a year-round indoor marketplace as well as an outdoor farmers market in the summer. It draws inspiration from urban markets like the Forks in Winnipeg. The opening has been pushed back due to rising costs and pandemic delays. It's now accepting vendor applications and is slated to open end of March. Just like that, the calendar flips from October to November, and the weather outside in Regina pretty similar to yesterday. Dreary and cold today, but the lake isn't frozen yet, and there's a lot of clear pavement out there. So what's to come as we roll into a new month? Ethan will have your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Siksika Nation in Alberta is experiencing a housing crisis that has lasted for generations. To address the need for homes, the First Nation is using 3D printing technology to build a housing complex for those in need. Experts say it's the largest project of its kind in the country.
We got together and we decided to kind of explore the potential of 3D printing technologies to try to alleviate the ongoing housing need on reserve.
It's intended for those who have the most acute housing needs, so people who are either currently homeless or at risk of being homeless.
Earlier this year, Siksika Housing put out their short-term housing strategy that identified the need for approximately 1,000 homes to be built in the next 10 years. We incorporated a series of design features that tie this project directly to Siksika culture, to Blackfoot culture.
It can be very tough to get skilled labor out here to help build housing, which is why you see a lot of prefabricated homes out on the nation. The machine takes away some of that from us, and we essentially have the assistance of a robot to help build the houses for us.
Every unit is going to be about 60 feet by 40 feet and contain 4 individual housing units. A regular house built with regular construction materials and systems can take several months to be built. A 3D printed house can take weeks.
We intend to have the homes finished by about the end of March in 2024.
Everybody is excited to see how this is going to play out. The biggest news was when the scaffolding was going up, we were going to get a concert in town, right?
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 2023 model clear-out is on now.
Well, I'm thrilled to see that our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, made it back from Fright Night and that clown didn't take you too far away.
Yeah, it was a tough battle getting out of that scary maze there, Sam, but I managed to make it work. And it was, after all, a pretty good night for the kids going out and trick-or-treating. The temperature's quite nice out there. But even though it was pretty warm, interestingly enough, in Regina, it was actually our coldest Halloween in about 17 years. Colder was back in 2006 when it was minus 1.7, and this year we were about half a degree warmer than that. Saskatoon, we had a nice warm Halloween comparatively. This year, 1.5 degrees above zero, and last time, or the kind of last coldest Halloween was only a few years ago, back in 2020, just below the freezing mark. And we'll take a look back now at the entire month of October. Of course, a brand new month, a good time to look back at the month that was. And when we talk about moisture, October will go down as a pretty decent month moisture-wise. A lot of us getting kind of bang on where we should be average moisture for the month of October. Again, in the southeast corner, a couple of storm systems moving through there brought you almost twice the amount of moisture you see in an October. And a lot of us right bang on normal, except for Regina. You can see we're only about 2/3 the normal moisture there, and in the far north as well, quite dry. When we talk about temperatures in October, nothing too much standing out, but all of us kind of having a flip-flop month. We started kind of getting halfway through with very much above seasonal temperatures, and then everything came crashing down as we headed through, especially the last 10 days in almost all locations through the province. Today, though, temperatures about where they were yesterday. We're looking at kind of low minus single digits. Coolest temperatures in the far north of the province, getting a little bit closer to minus 10. And that is where we'll see a little bit of snow moving through tonight, and that cloud cover building back in through much of the province. That skirts by overnight, though, and as we head into tomorrow, an area of high pressure moving into our north may actually just bring through some clearing. Remnants of a system in BC could be bringing maybe even a little bit of rain and then changing over to snow as we head through the day tomorrow and into Friday, when that high pressure kind of really takes over, but then another shot of snow and clouds building back in for the weekend. Generally only about maybe 2 to 4 centimeters with this system moving through tonight in an area from about Uranium City through to Key Lake and then through South End, and then not really expecting much more after that. For Regina, though, there is a chance that we may just see a little more sunshine tomorrow, as that temperature might even jump back above the freezing mark, and then things kind of getting a little bit cloudier as we head into the weekend, and the temperatures kind of on a bit of a seesaw here as we head into next week too, but those overnight lows staying about seasonal for this time of year, out of double-digit territory. Saskatoon, again, a nice day expected tomorrow, maybe a little bit of clearing before things cloud back over. Sunday, our next best chance of any moisture, and then more cloud and temperatures just below freezing heading through the week. So November, Sam, hitting a little bit of a repeat pattern here.
All right, I just see ice in my future because of the melt, freeze, so cautious moving ahead.
Yes, that's right. Tread carefully into November.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Would anyone like to swap their brush for a shovel?
Yes. Dinosaur enthusiasts will be in good company this month as the Royal Saskatchewan Museum brings back Dinovember. The museum is home to Scotty, the world's largest fossil. Staff work year-round to research and protect new fossil finds connected to our province's history. The month will feature special dino activities and programs, including a scavenger hunt, and the Learning Lab will be open with hands-on activities in the afternoons on the weekends. You can find more details on the museum's website. We'll be back after the break. A recent episode of the CBC's Fifth Estate on Buffy Sainte-Marie calls into question her claims of Indigenous ancestry. In a public statement, the singer calls the Fifth Estate's allegations deeply hurtful. She continues to claim an Indigenous identity, but the evidence presented in the documentary has sent shockwaves across Canada, causing pain, especially among people who are Indigenous. Emily Brass has more now on how Manitoba artists and institutions are responding to the news.
Please welcome a legend in our industry, Buffy Sainte-Marie.
Buffy Sainte-Marie inspired generations of Indigenous musicians.
It's time for change.
In 2018, she won the Juno for Indigenous Music Album of the Year, but a recent CBC investigation suggests she's neither Indigenous nor Canadian.
The Junos are kind of like the benchmark.
Dark secrets, darker light.
Singer-songwriter Don Amaro was also up for that Juno for his work with Winnipeg band Indian City. Led by the late Vince Fontaine, the award could have recognized the respected musician before he died last year.
Vince and I used to talk about the awards. They're not the be-all and end-all, but that's the kind of the big pat on the back that says you're kind of in the right direction.
Kelly Fraser was also in the running. The up-and-coming singer took her own life in 2019. Amaro says while he would have liked to see either of those artists win, he's not condemning Buffy.
To get to this place in my career as an Indigenous artist, I stand on the shoulders of giants. And Buffy's one of those giants that kicked open the doors for a person like me.
Sainte-Marie was recognized with dozens of accolades during her decades-long career, including an honorary doctorate of music from Brandon University. In a statement, BU says it's absorbing the allegations and says it'll engage in meaningful conversations with Indigenous leaders before taking action. Manitoba Music says the documentary sparked emotional conversations among industry professionals across the country. The group's already looking at how to verify indigeneity for grants and awards, something producer-director Jade Harper says is tricky given the history of the 60s scoop.
We talk about self-identifying as Indigenous people and respecting that and not questioning, because we all don't know what people are going through. So, one of the things I had learned was not to question out of respect.
She says while many are feeling a mix of disappointment and gratitude to Buffy, the honors she received were meant for Indigenous people for a reason.
We need that step up. And so if there are people who are claiming indigeneity who are not Indigenous and are taking those steps, that is harmful.
Harper says any process to confirm indigeneity must involve Indigenous leaders. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather. No cloud to take you away tonight.
No, that's right. I'm safe for now in the studio here, but you can basically take what we saw on Halloween in the last 24 hours, just copy it and paste it into this forecast, because we're sitting at -9 in Regina at midnight, just about what we saw last night. Maybe a bit of fog overnight in Regina and southern sections, just as a heads up, but that'll burn off tomorrow morning. Temperature doesn't change much by the morning. And then as we get into the afternoon, possibly a little bit more clearing, that temperature hovering around freezing or so. Those winds not too bad out of the southwest. And a pretty similar picture here for Saskatoon, just a little bit warmer and I think a little bit clearer for you folks there. By the morning hours, sitting around -5, and then maybe even getting some mainly sunny conditions past the noon hour, Sam. So seeing that nice sunshine come back.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask, subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Ethan and I will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.